Well, the PGA Tour is getting another LIV player back. Patrick Reed has announced his decision to no longer play on LIV and will begin competing on a regular basis on the PGA Tour in 2027. The official PGA Tour statement says he's eligible to play as early as August of this year, August 25th of 2026. There's going to be a lot of people wondering, well, wait a minute, how can he do this? And because he's not the returning member program, and he didn't qualify because the things that put out. That's all a discussion for another day. He's returning as a past champion, and we can get into the minutia of that at a later date. There is a much bigger picture at play here. And we tried to tell you this on the Straight Facts Only podcast. In fact, no, that's incorrect. We did tell you this on the Straight Facts Only podcast on December 10th. We recorded an episode on December 10th about Brooks Koepka's desire to return from LIV to the PGA Tour. And at that time, we said, this is what the beginning of the end looks like for LIV. And then Brooks made his return. The PGA Tour came out with their returning member policy, and their window open till February 2nd, which I believe may be opening up a little later, and there might be another window for other names. I'm just saying. And now Patrick Reed is coming. We tried to tell you this is what the end looks like. And look, LIV will go on in some way, shape, or form for a while because the Saudis have endless money, and they're going to be stubborn, and they're going to play their 12 to 16 events or whatever it is this year. But do you remember that scene in the Titanic where the Titanic hit the iceberg, and the mechanic or the builder or the architect of the ship, the actor who played him, said, when the head of the White Star Line said, "This ship can't sink," he said, "It's made of iron. I can assure you it will." And what happened in the Titanic was all those watertight compartments that they thought were safe. Well, they didn't think about what would happen if a little spilled over and a little spilled over and a little spilled over and a little spilled over. It could survive 2, but not 3 or 4, and that's what caused the ship to go down. That's what's happening here. This is the tip of the iceberg. We also said one time in that December 10th episode with Brooks Koepka and the desire to return that once one goes, another will go, and another will go, and another will go. Patrick Reed returning is that coming to fruition. And oh, by the way, did you hear the press conference that the LIV players had in Florida to talk about the launch of the season when Bryson was there and John Rahm was there? And they asked Bryson about all of this, and Bryson's response was, yeah, I'm here, focusing on 2026. Could not have been less enthused in any way, shape, or form. And they asked Rahm about it, and Rahm said, yeah, same answer as Bryson. I'm here in 2026. Now, again, it's going to be much more difficult for Rahm because we've talked about this also on the Straight Facts Only podcast. Rahm's deal is significantly richer. 300 to 600 to 900 million based on bonuses and all that kind of stuff. Brooks and Bryson were the same $100 million deals, and Bryson's up after this year. Rahm has 2 more years left on his deal with LIV. It's going to be a much more difficult extrapolation for John Rahm than it will be for Bryson DeChambeau. But Patrick Reed's statement I thought was very interesting, as was Brooks's press conference as he's playing in the Waste Management Open this weekend in Phoenix. Did you hear what he said? He basically said, Rory and Scotty, and I want they're the best. I want to go up against the best. I want to measure myself against them. That's Brooks Koepka telling you the real reason without telling you the real reason. He wants real competition. Like, Brooks is one of a handful of golfers in PGA Tour history that has 5 majors. He has 2 U.S. Opens and he has 3 PGA championships. Okay, that's exclusive and rarefied air. And the money's nice. The money is wonderful. But if you're a competitor at heart, you know you're not getting the best competition. Like, one of my favorite clips ever in the history of LIV was they were talking with Taylor Gooch and Dustin Johnson. I can't remember who else was on the team. Maybe it was Patrick Reed. I'm not sure. And it was a big win for the team. And Taylor Gooch said, look, I've never played in a Ryder Cup, but this atmosphere feels like a Ryder Cup. And you could see Dustin Johnson behind him almost laughing out loud. Almost laughing out loud. Because if you've been in the crucible, if you've won multiple majors or a major, and you've been on Ryder Cup teams, you thrive on the competition. That's what fuels your fire. And whatever member guest live is, it ain't the same competition. It's not the same. Brooks is out there wanting to compete against the best and be the best again. And that was something else that was very interesting in Patrick Reed's statement. If you go back and read what Patrick Reed had to say, and it is a lengthy statement about all the things he's wanting to come back for, one of the things that really stuck out to me is I'm a traditionalist at heart. I was born to play on the PGA Tour, which is where my story began. I'm excited that I'm returning to the PGA Tour. Over the last 4 years, I've learned a lot about myself, about who I am and who I am not, and for that I am forever grateful. That to me is also an indication of Patrick Reed saying, this was fun, this was nice, and the money was great, but it doesn't fuel me. It doesn't fulfill me the way winning on the PGA Tour did. And you want to talk about competitor. Arguably, the single greatest match ever in Ryder Cup history was a singles shootout between Patrick Reed and Rory McIlroy in 2016 at Hazeltine. I'm not sure if that was golf or a WWE match that just happened to have people wearing silly pants. Okay? It was one of the most insane things I'd ever seen. They were screaming at the top of their lungs, yelling as loud as they could. At one point, Rory drained a big putt on top of Patrick, and Patrick still had I think a 30-footer, and he stepped up and drained it to tie and went like this to Rory, saying, "Not yet. You didn't get me. Not yet." It was one of the most eventually they ran out of gas because nobody can do that over 18 holes and 3 hours of golf. But it was an incredible display of emotion. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Patrick Reed is saying, I didn't get that. I didn't get that on the Live Tour. I got a lot of money. I didn't get that. All these guys that have come back, Brooks, Patrick Reed, and I believe that Bryson eventually will come back as well. They want to measure themselves against the best. They want to measure themselves against the greats of the current game and the greats of the past. And if we're honest about it, and look, I know that Liv is going to 4 rounds and 72 holes instead of 54, which is kind of funny because the whole thing was Liv, L-I-V, was, it's supposed to be everything about not having to play 4 rounds of golf. We're just going to do 3. We're going to wear shorts. We're going to grow the game. We're going to do flash mobs, whatever. This is an indication that if you're truly a competitor, you know where the one place is to measure yourself against the best. And that's what these guys are chasing. Now, I don't think Patrick Reed is going to get into the pantheon of where Brooks Koepka is, but you want to try. You want to put yourself in the crucible to see if you can answer the challenge. And that's what these guys have been lacking. And I thought Rory McIlroy's statement was very telling too. He saw this coming. He said, "You're seeing others say this recently. Patrick Reed said it in Dubai. It seems like some of those guys are maybe starting to realize they're not getting everything they wanted out of going over there, and that's obviously a great thing for the PGA Tour. They got money. They got life-changing money. There's no question about it. But there's an itch you just got to scratch if you're a competitor. And you know it. You know that in your heart, if you're a competitor, you have to measure yourself up against the best. And for all the good things, and there are some things that Liv has done well, I want to be clear. The growth and the explosion of golf in Asia and that area of the world has been remarkable. And I think that Liv has been responsible for a lot of that. And it's good to see golf getting to other places where you didn't play a lot of golf, and that's fine. But if you're a competitor, if you're an athlete, if you're a guy that wants to be the best, it's one thing to grow the game. You can do that when you're done playing, right? You can do that as an ambassador somewhere after you've taken what is a very short window, let's be honest. Even though golf is a place where, Phil Mickelson proved you can win a major in your 50s, your window to do those kind of things goes much faster than any of you realize, any of these players realize. And most of the players don't realize how fast it goes until it's over in any sport. And that's when they realize about the things they should have done or wish they could have done. And it sounds like Patrick Reed and Brooks Koepka are realizing that I have a really short competitive window to be at my best, to mark myself as one of the greats in the game, for people to remember me for what I did, not how much money I made. And I think that's what you're seeing here. And I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time. There will be others that will be coming, and we'll see how they will extrapolate themselves from their contracts with LIV, because those things, there was an old commercial back in the 70s and 80s about a bank, and it said substantial penalty for early withdrawal. And that's what a lot of these guys will be facing with the way those LIV contracts have been written up. But we told you over a month ago on this podcast, Straight Facts Homie, it's just a matter of time. The trickle effect has started. Once one steps up and says, I'm going that way instead of that way, others will follow. Now, the really interesting thing is, how will this be received and perceived by people that didn't leave? You know, there have been some people, including Wyndham Clark, who has said, oh, let me get this straight. So I can go over there and make a ton of money and still find a way to come back. That kind of sucks. And there's going to be some backlash. And there's going to be a way that the PGA Tour as an entity and the players on the PGA Tour are going to have to reconcile that. Because, as we said, in the returning member program, Patrick Reed doesn't qualify. The rules that Brian Rolapp put out in that statement were very specific. You had to have won one of the four majors of the Players' Championship between 2022 and 2025 to be up for consideration. And that was a direct invitation to Bryson DeChambeau, Cameron Smith, who said he's staying with LIV, and I understand that he's Australian. That's the part of the world that's easier for him to get around to. Fine with him. But it was really about Cam Smith, Bryson DeChambeau, and Jon Rahm. Like, those are the ones that qualified under that. Patrick Reed is using another avenue, and again, he will not participate in the player equity program for a while, but when you've made $100 million, I think that's a sacrifice you're willing to make to come back on this tour, which is the standard. It just is. It's the standard for the best golfers on the world to compete against each other. This is just the beginning. Now, LIV will putter along as long as the Saudis want to keep dumping money into it. And there was a lot of backlash from LIV. And they even went after Dan Rappaport with a meme. I've never seen a professional league, sports league, in any way, shape, or form meme a journalist for something like that. The NFL, that would be like the NFL going after Barstool in some sort of meme. Just doesn't happen. LIV did that, which I thought was really weird and an indication of where they are and how they operate and what they think about. But they know it. They know it. I mean, they were there listening to how non-excited and how bored Bryson DeChambeau and Jon Rahm sounded when they were asked about the upcoming season and all the things and the detractors and Brooks Koepka going back to LIV. I'm sure they would have loved to say, hey, that's great for Brooks. I'm happy he's happy, but I'm really happy. And I like where I am, and I'm ecstatic about being here, and I'm going to be here for a long, long time. They didn't say that. Cameron Smith said that. Cameron Smith is with LIV, and he's going to be there as long as they're going to keep paying him, and that's fine. But you could tell that Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau probably wish they weren't asked that question. And I know Scott O'Neill, who's the head of LIV now after Greg Norman's departure, he couldn't have been thrilled with those answers, and he couldn't have been thrilled with what's going on. They still even can't get official world golf points, world golf ranking points. They're still trying to figure that out. And that's the OWGR basically saying, we're not sure you're going to be around for very long. So we're not sure we want to bend any of our rules or acquiesce to you because we're not sure as an entity what this is going to be. So make no mistake about it. And we talked about this when we did the Brooks episode in December. LIV had the hammer, and they swung it when they came out of the gate. And they stung the PGA Tour by taking the likes of Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau and Patrick Reed and eventually Jon Rahm. The hammer now is on the PGA Tour. The hammer has swung the other way. The pendulum is swinging back towards the PGA Tour. And Patrick Reed coming back and saying he's basically going to wait out and play in 2027. He'll have some ways to get in and participate in a few events. And again, beginning as early as August of 2026. But the momentum is now back on the PGA Tour. And if you don't think that's true, you're simply not reading the room and understanding the dynamics of what's happening here. There's a line from an old British movie called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And Dick Van Dyke's character wanted to make these toot sweets. They were candies that you could eat, but you could also whistle on them. And he was trying to impress the boss, and he messed it up. And the boss said, "Too late, had your chance, muffed it." That might be what we'll say very soon about Liv's attempt to take the best players in the world and find a way to shove themselves at the seat of power in golf. Too late, had your chance, muffed it. And that's straight facts, homie.